I wanted to read you a letter I just recently wrote to a Chilliwack School District Board trustee member. He's been on the board as a director, I believe, since 1992, according to his Facebook profile. He recently, on October 27th, went public, I guess, on his personal Facebook page, denouncing British Columbia's laws protecting LGBTQ students. We have anti-bullying laws that include gender and gender identity, as well as sexuality. So the province has human rights laws as well as school district laws that protect harassment and abuses of people who fall in that demographic, or abuses that are within the umbrella of that hate and discrimination. He equated his beliefs, if they're not going to be, I guess, commonplace here, he should move to Russia, for instance, or they belong in Russia, something like that. You can look him up. I'm a little reluctant to say his name because I think, and this is a good thing to talk about, is I find that sometimes online harassment and bullying, just even if it's rooted in trying to fight hate and discrimination, is still harassment, and it can still be violent, and I don't agree with it, and I think it's awful, so I'm very reluctant to say his name. However, it's all over the internet. Look up, I guess, Chilliwack School District Trustee, and I'm sure you'll find it. Nonetheless, I want to read you a letter I have sent him both on his personal Facebook page as well as his email as a school trustee, requesting an opportunity to sit down with him. A lot of people have asked me why I can stay so calm, or how I do it, or why I even want to do it, and I will maintain every single post, every single day, that conversations are the way we get places. I think laws get changed because of the conversations that took place before that. So I'm asking him, and if you're out there and you're listening to this, this is also my public request. I want to have a conversation with you. So here's my letter. It took a lot to write. This happened while I was writing it, because it brings back a lot of memories. He thinks that LGBTQ students don't need specific protections for being a part of the LGBTQ umbrella. He equated those protective laws as child abuse, and how somehow pushing some sort of agenda against some biological whatever is abusive. So this was my letter. First off, I would like to say I appreciate you reading my email. I intend to keep this short, but wanted to ask for the opportunity to discuss some of your concerns with the changing atmosphere that is our culture and subsequently rules governing our school system. I am a 35-year-old adult who has had to deal with decades of trauma regarding the abuses I experienced on a daily basis in the BC school system. Transgender wasn't a word I understood, and to be honest, neither was gender. What I did understand was the violent ways in which my gender was enforced on me every single day. The funny thing was I never really tried to be anything I wasn't. I was just being me. I was a gregarious kid who loved to be outside, whether it was playing tag, soccer, or gardening with my grandmother. My mother was a full-time student, and I spent a lot of my free time longing to be with her. I lived for Saturdays when I got to play ringette with my best friends, and July when hockey season would start for me. I got straight A's, immersing myself in creative writing and the multiplication table. I excelled at sports and in drama class. I was first picked for everything. I got $5 every week for allowance when I didn't perfectly earn, My mom would say, not at all. But I tried my best every single day. At least once a month, I would walk to the store where a local homeless man made his perch, and I would give him my allowance. Even as an 8-year-old kid, I understood what pain may have happened to him that led him to a life on the streets. I once found an injured bird on my walk home from school, brought it home very carefully, and spent 3 days nursing it back to life. When kids were bullied, I was the first to speak up. Not because I understood, but because I had an inherent understanding of how humans are supposed to treat each other. But I also did understand the damage that words can cause. As an excellent student, star athlete, and kind soul, I had what could easily be spun as a fantastic childhood. I had an incredible zest for life, wonderful friends, and a family who loved every inch of my being. The problem was, when you looked outside of my close-knit circle, the adults and children alike never really concentrated on that stuff. To them, I was a product of my haircut and the clothes I wore, the clothes I chose to wear. To them, I was just a product of my haircut and the clothes I chose to wear in order to facilitate my active and carefree life. I was never safe at school. Having a single mother who worked nearly full-time and studied full-time, I had to walk the 15 minutes along the seawall to school by myself. This was not uncommon for kids to walk by themselves, but for those kids, they didn't have to run. They didn't have to plan their walks to school around what tree they could climb, but not the other kids. Or where there were bushes so that they could duck behind them if the older boys saw them. Those kids didn't have baseballs and beer bottles thrown at them as they sped by on their bicycle, knowing that if you stop, all 6 of them will jump you. They didn't get ganged up on, circled by children threatening to tear off their clothes, just to find what genitalia they had because no one could figure out what it was. And yes, kids can be mean. They're still so young, they've not had the experience of long-term intrinsic pain due to the abuses at the hands of another. But it was not just the kids. I would go from being violently ganged up on from nearly half the school on a daily basis to being told by teachers and principals that if you were just a lady, none of this had happened to you. Don't worry, I'm going to wash this. I learned very quickly that telling adults meant listening to them tell me, an 8-year-old child, that I deserved each and every black eye and all the threats of violence. That I, the kid who stood up to a fully grown parent beating the snot out of her kid in a church washroom, deserved the very same beating because I had short hair and pants on. You see, I never felt like I was born in the wrong body. I never felt like there was something wrong with me or what activities made my heart sing. I never thought helping the kid no one liked because he was in the slow math class and helping him learn how to do multiplication meant that that was less of an indication of character than my haircut was. But it was very clear that our society does. I do not write you this letter with the intent of only sharing a story. I think words on paper or on a screen fall short, and their value cannot be seen without looking into the eyes of someone who has experienced the very pain that the laws you have denounced are trying to protect. You need to understand where that story came from. You need to see what the pain creates. You opted to take your opinion to a public forum, so clearly you're looking for a conversation. I make this request of you. Please sit down with me. Talk to me about all the ways in which you think those protective laws are actually harming our children. Let me ask you questions. Let us learn from each other. I have a child who attends a school in your district. I have an inherent... As a parent who has invested interest in understanding how our schools are being run, I ask you to give me 5 minutes, half an hour, whatever time you will give me, I will take. But please spare some time so that you can let me have a conversation with you. No harm ever comes when two people of opposite beliefs come together to grow. So that's my letter. And I mean every second of it. A conversation's gonna do no harm. But coming out with statements like you made does. I recently found a petition online backing him up. There were 4,000 signatures. And to a lot of people, that looks like, meh, it's only 4,000 people. And yeah, I'm glad there's not more. But there was a Facebook protest page shortly after his comments that were wanting to talk against his statements, and 45 people said they'd join. When you come out with statements like that, you rally hate, you rally discrimination. And you can think whatever you want about what I am or how I live my life, but I don't think that about you. Despite the fact that I think your words are disgusting, I don't think that about you. Because I'm sure, as a board member since 1992, you care about the kids. I see you also volunteer for the Correctional Service of Canada. I presume you're doing this out of some very good character in your heart. And I'd prefer to let that define you. I haven't been perfect my whole life. I've had some really stupid beliefs. I've been taught some really stupid things. But I think there comes a point in every adult's life where you need to sit down and have some tough conversations. I'm at that point too. Let me have one with you.